Lately, I've been obsessed with this idea that the Packers have built their team like the Bills and the Ravens, but they have Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, and Jordan Love, at least as of yet, is not that. So how can the Packers get there? I've landed on an answer. It's Matt LaFleur.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the number one Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Ever since we talked about the Difference Maker podcast, I have been, I'm not ashamed, but I'm a little ashamed to admit, I've been kind of obsessed with this idea that the Packers have built a team that is very similar in approach to what the Baltimore Ravens and Buffalo Bills have done. And I think it's important to remember that no team goes into an offseason and goes, you know what would be great? If we just add no really good players. Like let's just only add solid players, maximize the amount of players who can just play reasonable snaps for us and not seek out any like high level playmakers. No one does that. No one goes into the draft and says, I hope this guy's just fine. As long as he's just, kind of whatever, playable, that's enough. No one does that. But the Packers went out and signed Nate Hobbs and Aaron Banks in free agency. They didn't try and swing for the high-level free agents that were out there. By the way, they did that last year with Xavier McKinney and Josh Jacobs. They didn't trade up, for example, in this draft to try and get a Teterow and McMillan. They ended up getting a very good receiver and a receiver that I think a lot of people thought was either the first or second best receiver in this draft class anyway. But they don't tend to make these big swings. Brian Gutekunst has in the past bid on top-level free agents and signed them. Za'Darius Smith ended up being a top-level free agent. Preston Smith ended up being a top-level free agent. Xavier McKinney, Josh Jacobs, they were at or near the top of certainly the free agent market when they were signed. And the Bills and the Ravens have made similar plays, but those rosters are not full of high-level players. Like, who is the second best Buffalo Bill after Josh Allen? Is it James Cook? Is it Matt Milano? Is it a lineman? Is it a corner? Is it Christian Benford? Whoever it is, that player is not a superstar player. Which is to say, they are not a team of superstars. Who's the second best player after Lamar Jackson? Okay, Derrick Henry's really, really good. Probably is, frankly, a superstar. How about after that? Do you have one? Not Mark Andrews really anymore. Marlon Humphrey's a really, really good player. Roquan Smith had that all-pro season a couple years ago, but has not recreated that since then. They've got a team that is full of very good players. They had a clear hole last year, and that was their passing defense for a long time. In the second half of the year, they buttoned that up a little bit. But that was not a superstar team. No one was saying, oh, that Ravens team, they're a super team. They were really, really good because the quarterback was really, really good. Jordan Love is not on that level yet. I think he's capable of being there, but he's not. The question that you have to answer is, okay, if the Packers can play like the Bills, like the Ravens, and remembering that you don't have to be as good as those guys to produce like those guys. Over the last 2 seasons, Jordan Love is at least in the class with those players. You know, like someone like Tua has actually outproduced them in efficiency, like EPA per play. Okay. But then what do you need to win in the postseason? Because Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, they haven't even been to a Super Bowl, much less won one. So how do you get to that point? Well, number one, you play in the NFC. So you don't have to beat Lamar Jackson. You don't have to beat Patrick Mahomes. You don't have to beat Josh Allen. You don't have to beat Joe Burrow. In order to get to the Super Bowl, there is, I'm not sure any quarterback in the NFC as good as the names that I just named. You want to throw Justin Herbert in there. Like, I think you can make a comfortable case that the 5 best quarterbacks in the NFL play in the AFC. I think it's pretty unimpeachable that the 4 best quarterbacks play in the AFC. And then after that, we can start having conversations. The Eagles won last year because they were a super team, frankly. That was the best roster in the league, it turned out. They're not that anymore. So how can you make up that gap, even if your quarterback takes that next step? Even if your quarterback produces the way that he's produced, because he has produced like a Josh Allen and a Lamar Jackson. And the answer is, because I was trying to think, okay, what do the Packers have that those teams don't? And I don't think Sean McDermott, for whatever quarterback, coach rankings you want to put out there, I don't think Sean McDermott is as good a coach as Matt LaFleur. And I don't think he affects the team the way Matt LaFleur can affect the Packers. He doesn't affect, because he is a defensive coach. And defense is such a variable thing year to year. It changes so much. Offense is a much stickier thing. It is a much more reliable way to win year in and year out, having a really good offense. Ask John Harbaugh. He's had to go out and hire. I mean, since they won the Super Bowl in 2012, it has been a carousel of offensive coordinators. So how can you be consistent when that's what you have, even if you have a good quarterback, which the Ravens do? And the answer is, you have a coach like Matt LaFleur, who consistently elevates the offensive personnel, who consistently puts the quarterback in a position to succeed, and who has had top 10 offenses basically every year he has been the head coach, who won games with Malik Willis because he could put together one-off game plans like few coaches in the NFL. Now, over the course of the season, were there mistakes? Yes, there were. Do I think this was Matt LaFleur's best coaching job? No. In fact, I think if you go back to 2019, I think this is his second worst coaching job. I think 2022 is the worst. Even though they won the second most games. They won 13 3 times. They won 11, and they won 9, and they won. Let's not talk about 2022. We know what Matt LaFleur is capable of. And for whatever playoff failures you want to pin on him, I don't think any of the playoff failures, certainly of the Jordan Love era, are on Matt LaFleur. Now, you want to go back to the Aaron Rodgers era, I think 2021, there's the most direct correlation because it seemed clear he needed to make a change with the special teams. Didn't, and it cost them a Super Bowl, frankly. But that offense didn't show up in 2021 either. Now, I put a lot of the blame of that on Aaron Rodgers and the way that he wanted to play and the way that he insisted on playing. But in 2023, the Packers had a stupendous game plan for the Dallas Cowboys. They had a very good game plan for the 49ers. They were not able to adjust in the second half of that game in the way that you would have hoped they could. But that was the best NFC team in the league. That was really the best team in the league that season. 2020, what am I supposed to blame on Matt LaFleur there? Aaron Jones fumbles at the worst time. Aaron Rodgers throws an interception off of what should have been defensive pass interference. What am I supposed to be upset about Matt LaFleur there with? In 2019, that 49ers team was just much better than the Packers. What am I supposed to be upset with? In the playoffs, you look at the 2019 Seahawks game, Matt LaFleur, terrific game plan. The 2020 Rams game, Matt LaFleur, terrific game plan. The 2023 Cowboys game, Matt LaFleur, terrific game plan. He is someone who has shown he can elevate his team. The one real blemish on his playoff record is 2021. And DeMeco Ryans, that was his masterpiece. But you guys know this. If you've listened to me for more than 14 minutes, I put a lot of that 2021 game on Aaron Rodgers. I did at the time. And especially since what we've seen from Matt LaFleur since then, I'm even more resolute in insisting that that's what that was. Matt LaFleur can be the differentiating factor. I think he's a better coach than Sean McDermott and John Harbaugh, even if you are interested in having those conversations. Oh, those guys are better coaches. Maybe. I don't see it, because I see what Matt LaFleur does directly impact his football team every day. To be able to impact the offensive scheme the way that he does is just so much more important. Oh, John Harbaugh's got the great culture. Okay, cool. How many Super Bowls since 2012 do they have? They've had the MVP twice. What has it mattered? They haven't even been able to get to the Super Bowl in the years that Lamar Jackson has been the MVP. And Lamar Jackson has not shown up in those games, in part because his head coach has nothing to do with the offense. The Packers have a head coach who does. Now, the reality is, for these teams, there are a lot of ways to build a title contender. We'll talk about that next on Locked On Packers. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so stop just managing your money and start building wealth. The all-in-one convenience means instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Plus, managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. So as I was thinking about the lead for this show, I was also struck watching the NBA playoffs. And we're going to get in the NBA, I believe the number is 7 consecutive first-time title teams in terms of that group in the finals. And that's interesting, because all of them are built differently. And the change every year, the parity in the NBA, you have these superstar players. They can impact the game. The NFL is not like that. Because if it were, you'd have seasons where non-Patrick Mahomes teams would luck into winning, because Patrick Mahomes teams would just not be as good. We see this in the NBA. Like LeBron James has been, well, not anymore, but it's been a little while. But for 10 straight years, he was the best player in the NBA. His team did not win 10 titles because you need everybody else. So, okay, not everyone can build a team around the best player in the league, right? And not every team can build a player even around a top 5 player because that's just not the reality. The Eagles last year built a super team, but they also caught lightning in a bottle. Even when you build a team like that, because I think you can make the case that a couple years ago, when they lost to the Chiefs, that roster was similarly awesome. They just made 1-2 fewer plays than the Chiefs. It's still those things, it can turn on a trifle. The 49ers, they built a terrific roster without a quarterback. They did it twice. The Eagles kind of did it too. The Eagles have won. So if you take the 49ers and the Eagles and you put them together, in 4 Super Bowl trips, they've won 1 time. Whereas if you look at the Chiefs, yes, they've lost twice, but they've won more than they've lost. And they've beaten other quarterbacks who, at least in the course of the season, were playing better. Last year, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson were better quarterbacks than Patrick Mahomes. Well, the Ravens and the Bills played, and then the Chiefs and the Bills played, and the Chiefs won, even though Josh Allen last year was better than Patrick Mahomes. And they didn't win solely because Patrick Mahomes outplayed Josh Allen. Like, I don't know what else Josh Allen was supposed to do. He can't play defense too. That Rams team that won the Super Bowl in 2021, Matthew Stafford wasn't the best quarterback in the league. Aaron Rodgers was the MVP that year. Joe Burrow was outstanding. Now, he was not as good as Aaron Rodgers, not even close. Tom Brady was better that season than Joe Burrow or Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford was like the 3rd or 4th best quarterback in his own conference. But they had Aaron Donald. They had Jalen Ramsey. They had Cooper Kupp. They had Matthew Stafford. And they had Sean freaking McVay. And this is why I wanted to bring this up. Because it ties into the first conversation that we had about Matt LaFleur. If you have good coaching, that is the differentiator. You don't have to have a Super Bowl roster that is just so much better than everyone else. It is not just the roster that will win you the Super Bowl. You need to have the coaches. And if you look back at the arc of Super Bowl history, it has been the coaches that have led those teams by and large. Now, last year, you have an Eagles team that was really led by the roster, but then you add Vic Fangio, you add Kellen Moore to that team. That was the difference. Before that, your last 2 Super Bowl winners, Andy Reid. Sean McVay wins in 2021. You get Tom Brady and the Bucs in 2020. Bruce Arians is a great coach. Andy Reid before that. Bill Belichick before that. An awesome Eagles team. An Eagles team that won with their backup quarterback. That tells you how good that team was. Bill Belichick before that. An incredible defensive team with Peyton Manning before that. Bill Belichick before that. Pete Carroll, the Legion of Boom, the best defense in the league, probably the best roster in the league before that. You need the coaching. There's a lot of different ways to build the roster. You can build it with defense, you can build it with offense, you can build it around the quarterback. Not all these teams that won the Super Bowl had the best quarterback in the NFL. Russell Wilson, that 2013 season was not the best quarterback in the NFL. Not by a long shot. That Peyton Manning team, that Broncos team, Peyton was one of the worst quarterbacks in the league that year, but that defense was unbelievable. They got red hot and it was a down league and you just got lucky. Sometimes you're just going to have to get a little bit lucky. You're going to have to get some injury luck. You're going to have a season where there weren't a lot of other great teams. Sometimes that can just happen. So what do you do over the course of a number of years? You give yourself a lot of shots on the rim. How many times can you be around the basket to give yourself an opportunity to be there? And then do you have the right playmaker group, and do you have the right coaching staff where in a given game they can outperform the best coaching staff from the other conference? Matt LaFleur has beat Sean McVay every single time he's been a head coach and they've matched up. He's beaten Kyle Shanahan in the regular season multiple times. In the playoffs, it's a little bit of a different story. I get that. But like, how much are we going to over-index that? Like, Kyle Shanahan's bringing his A game in the postseason, but not in the regular season. Like, give me a break. That stuff is that's the kind of argument you make when you don't have an argument to explain the losses in the regular season. I've done this bit before, but if you look at the teams that the Packers have beat in the playoffs under Matt LaFleur, 2019, Pete Carroll, Super Bowl champion. 2020, Sean McVay, Super Bowl champion. 2023, Mike McCarthy, Super Bowl champion. And they lost to teams that were better than them. 49ers, 3 times? Kyle Shanahan has been to multiple Super Bowls. Never won one, but been to multiple and was the offensive coordinator in Atlanta. So like plenty of pedigree there. They're not losing to like, some nonsense Carolina Panthers team with Jake Delhomme. Like that's not what we're talking about here. There are a lot of different ways to build a champion. You've got to have some side of the ball that can be elite. The Packers offense is capable of being elite. The Packers defense is capable of being elite. We'll see what happens this year. And you need to have a coach who is capable of putting together a run in the postseason where they can just outcoach every team that they face. Matt LaFleur is capable of doing that. He is. Now, can they fix some of the holes on this team? Can they patch up the special teams, for example? Rich Bisaccia, you're up, buddy. You're up. Let's see it. There's been something I've been wanting to talk about, and I've been trying to find the right place for it. I mentioned it in a bit of the leap the other day, but I want to address it on the show. We'll do that next on Locked On Packers. Thanks for making Locked On Packers your first listen. For your second listen, check out Locked On NFL Scouting. As training camps get closer and moves are being made, host Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. There was an issue about a week ago on a major NFL site. It's not something I want to get too into detail on, because it's not about that. And there were some accusations about AI being used in the use of in the writing of some articles. And as of this moment, I'm not particularly concerned about these models being able to provide you guys content for 30 minutes a day. But we aren't that far off from that. We're not. And there are already programs out there that are able to give you the synthesis of recaps and those kinds of things. There's a reason this show works the way that it does. And that what we want to talk about here is not just what, but why and how. And what these models are missing, and I'm not anti-AI by any means. I think a lot of these functionalities are very, very useful in our daily lives. This is not me going on some sort of like Luddite rant by any means. But in terms of content creation and what we're bringing to you, both here and at the Leap and elsewhere, what these models are able to do is only copy what is already out there, really, at this point. If you ask them, to synthesize my take on something, the only thing they can do is consume all the stuff that I have already put together and then say, based on those patterns, here. But guess what? I know a lot of you know on a Monday morning after a game what I'm going to say. Not because you're, artificially intelligent, but because you've listened to the show. And part of building a relationship with the audience is you guys know my voice. You know what I believe in. You know what matters to me. You know what I think about certain players, about certain ideas, about certain concepts, about certain statistics that I find important. But there's no recreating this. Because what I do is going to be different and new every single day. And I go out of my way every single day to try and find opportunities to surprise you. And when a story comes out, and I know what the angle for everyone is going to be, because I consume the content too. I know what Andy Herman is going to say. I know what Aaron Nagler is going to say. I know what Rob Demovsky is going to say. I know what Jason Willie is going to say. I just know what they're going to say. And I don't want to just regurgitate what everyone else is going to say. And that includes me. I want to find a way to give you something different, to give you something else, something that maybe you're not expecting. At least every once in a while. I mean, I want you to come here and feel comfortable and say, look, I know what this guy is going to say because I know his belief system. I want to be reliable and consistent in that way. But when there's the news of the day, every single day, my goal is to come here and say something you have not heard on a different show, in a different article, on a different tweet. My goal every single day is to surprise you in that way, or at the very least to provide you with something that you can't get anywhere else. And the reality of where we are technologically speaking right now is that those things can't give that to you. And we don't charge you for Locked On Packers. We have advertisers that allow us to continue to do our work, that compensate me and the people that put together this show and the people behind the scenes and the people selling ads and all the stuff that goes into making a show like this, a professional show. They're all a part of this too. I want you to come here and not only believe, hey, I know what I'm going to expect in terms of quality. I have a certain expectation of the tone and some of the approaches, but you wouldn't come back day after day if you knew what I was going to say, right? That'd be boring. If I don't surprise you at least sometimes, then what are we doing here? And so as this AI creep comes in, and I mean the creep of AI, not that they are creeps, because it's a machine. It's not anything really. It's important to me that you and I connect person to person, and that I'm able to give you something that feels real, because you're consuming content over the course of the day, over the course of the week, over the course of your year that is artificial, that you don't even know is artificial. And in a lot of cases, it's fine. It's not a big deal. I don't want that to be what you get when you come to Locked On Packers. It's important to me that that's not what you're getting when you come here. That you're getting something that you feel is personable, is relatable, is human. You're not going to get that everywhere else. And I'm even from other humans. Because a lot of them, frankly, are just not that interesting. I hope you find something different here. And my goal is, now I'm competing against the machines. I'm competing against conglomerated versions of myself, theoretically. If someone really wanted to do that, they could do that. So I got to compete against my own takes now. I don't take that responsibility lightly, and I hope you know that. It's important to me. And I try and earn your trust and earn your clicks and your downloads and your time every single day. It matters to me. And I hope it matters to you too. All right, happy Memorial Day to everybody. We'll be back tomorrow, much more here on Locked On Packers as we move through the off season. Follow me on social media, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on all the social medias. Subscribe wherever you get podcasts. Go subscribe over on our YouTube page so you can stay Locked On Packers.